Watch this.
Ahead for you on this Friday edition of the 208. The Idaho Republican Party made quite a change with their voter affiliation rules over the summer, and with the 2024 election cycle just ahead, they asked the Secretary of State to make sure he's enforcing it. Just one problem. Secretary of State says he can't. So who gets to be a Republican? It's Steelhead Mania. Yes, we're talking about the fish and the hockey squad, both making the news for very different reasons. We wanted to know, is there a steelhead intersection? It's Friday. You know what that means. We are digging into the week that was, answering your viewer questions and sharing comments. Yes, we will talk about recycling ahead. Who is really an official Republican in Idaho? Well, we could host a debate for the entire show or several shows about who is a real Republican in Idaho, but it really depends on your perspective. What am I talking about? Well, you have people that use the term rhino, Republican in name only. They seem to be a call out from different factions of the Republican Party. Depending on who you talk to, some in the Republican are too extreme to be real Republicans. Some are too moderate to be real Republicans. Some are simply a wolf in sheep's clothing, not Republicans at all. Well, whatever commentary you have on the Republicans in Idaho, Idahoans have the opportunity to register with whatever party they want, regardless of their views. And being a registered Republican comes with the perk of voting in the closed GOP primary. The Republican primary was closed in Idaho by the party, the GOP, to prevent outside political groups from messing with their votes. Understandable. Well, another step was taken over the summer at the GOP state convention. The Idaho GOP, they passed a rule requiring people who want to vote Republican in next year's primary, 2024, they had to do one of two things. If they were unaffiliated, they had to make sure to register as a Republican by December 30th of this year, the year before the May primary. But if they were already registered with another party and they want to vote as a Republican, they would have to wait a full year after that December 30th deadline to be considered a registered Republican. So to ensure the new rules are enforced, Idaho GOP Chair Dorothy Moon sent a letter to the Secretary of State, Phil McGrain. This letter from GOP Chair Dorothy Moon to Idaho Secretary of State Phil McGrain refers to a recent Idaho Supreme Court case, the Idaho Republican Party versus former Secretary of State Ben Usursa. It affirmed political parties' rights to establish their own rules around voter affiliation. The letter formally requests that Secretary of State McGrain provide guidance to all 44 county clerks in Idaho to enforce the new Republican Party affiliation rules uniformly. Chair Moon argues that this is needed to uphold the Idaho Republican Party's rights, maintain integrity of the electoral process, and align with the recent court precedent and the First Amendment. The letter wraps up from Moon requesting a formal written response within 10 days, acknowledging the Secretary of State's commitment to enforcing the new Republican affiliation rules with all county clerks. Just one problem. The Secretary of State doesn't believe the law in Idaho allows him to do that. Secretary of State Phil McGrain sent his own letter back to Chair Moon. In it, McGrain explains that after consulting with the Attorney General's office, he has determined that implementing these new rules are outside his legal authority as Secretary of State. His role is to administer Idaho's election laws as passed by the legislature, not create new policies prompted by party politics. Secretary of State says he's limited to administering the party affiliation and primary participation statuses as written in Idaho Code. McGrain writes to Moon saying that while the Republican Party can set its own internal membership rules, the executive branch cannot unilaterally act on these rules. Election law changes, he says, are the legislature's role. But it appears that whoever sends out the Idaho GOP newsletter on Friday, they didn't care for that opinion, or they didn't get the memo from the Secretary of State. Or maybe this was an auto email that went out on its own. But anyway, today the Idaho GOP, they wrote to their membership in a newsletter, quote, "A reminder for Idahoans, in order to participate in the Republican presidential caucus on March 2nd, you must register to vote and affiliate with the Republican Party before December 31st, 2023. Something's got to give." And according to Idaho's Secretary of State, the contents, that specific part of the newsletter, appears to be incorrect. Anyways, I reached out for clarification to have a conversation with Chair Dorothy Moon for comments on the story, really anything. She did not respond to my email, letting her know well in advance that we wanted to cover this story in depth today and we wanted to include her thoughts. So again, she never responded, but the invitation remains open to Chair Moon. Switching topics now. Coming out of the dark days of COVID, it was a real reset for many in terms of health coverage and plans. So there are a lot of questions these days, especially for those who lost Medicaid coverage as pandemic-era rules they began to be relaxed. And if you didn't know, one of those rules, it involved the public health emergency declaration for the coronavirus pandemic. As a result, states like Idaho, they were forbidden from kicking people off of Medicaid because their income or other eligibility criteria had changed during the pandemic. But those COVID-era rules are now over, so some people found themselves needing new health insurance. This Sunday morning on Viewpoint, I chat with Your Health Idaho Executive Director Pat Kelly, and they're working to help those needing coverage before the enrollment period ends. Hard deadline in December. And for those wondering about making the switch from Medicaid to a new platform, I asked about how care and coverage compare. First place to start, filling out the easy application on this website.
So the nice thing about Your Health Idaho is our application, once you submit that application, you find out your answer in mere minutes. So you'll know your tax credit right then and there, and you can go immediately in to shopping for plans. The whole process can take maybe 30 minutes in total. So really easy, all online, and super efficient for Idahoans.
And I know there's a standard of care and there's expectations that people had with Medicaid, and they'd been on it for years. Now they find themselves off of it. Is it a difficult, I guess, transfer, or is it a pretty, apples and oranges situation or apples to apples situation?
Well, I think it's probably apples to oranges. It is different coverage, but the important thing is if you have a particular provider that you worked with while on Medicaid, you can make sure that provider is in network with the plan you choose with Your Health Idaho. To make it easier for Idahoans, we also have what's known as a special enrollment period all the way through November 30th. And that's for enrolling in 2023 health insurance. So if you've found out that you've lost Medicaid, you're no longer eligible and want to have health insurance through the end of this year, you do have an opportunity to enroll. And of course, if you're just looking for coverage for next year, you can enroll through December 15th.
So Viewpoint airs Sunday morning at 9 a.m. right here on News Channel 7, and we got to discuss health insurance and some frequently asked questions in depth. We had a lot of time to really get into some of the weeds, time that we don't usually have on a newscast, so I learned a lot, I'll tell you that. Please join us on Sunday. Good chat. All right, end of the week. So what else is going on in the 208? What do you need to talk about on your Friday night with your friends and family? Well, we can let you know about a little crime, a little sports, and a little holiday spirit. Here's Sophia Bliss with your 411.
The attorneys representing death row inmate Thomas Creech are asking the state to throw out his death sentence because they say he deserves a jury trial instead of the single judge who sentenced him back in 1982. Creech was sentenced to death for the murder of fellow inmate David Dale Jensen. Creech has a clemency hearing in January. We've had coverage all week on the one-year mark since 4 University of Idaho students were murdered in an off-campus home. Tonight at 7, we honor Xana Kernodle, Ethan Chapin, Madison Mogan, and Kaylee Gonsalves in an hour-long special with Maggie O'Mara right here on KTVB. Bronco fans, tomorrow our sports team Jay Tust and Brady Frederick have all your top BSU headlines in the Bronco Roundup Game Day show from 9 to 10. That'll be right here on Channel 7 and KTVB+. Then join the fun again in an hour before kickoff at 4 p.m. on KTVB's digital platforms. Sticking with sports, Bogus Basin is having a soft opening tomorrow. Emphasis on the soft. The Explorer Terrain Park is opening early for the season from 10 a.m. to 4, and the best part, it's free. Even if it doesn't feel like winter, we can still get into the spirit. Winter Garden Aglow is back next week at the Idaho Botanical Garden from November 23rd through December 31st. Enjoy a beautiful light show Wednesdays through Sundays from 6 to 9 p.m. And this year, it's bigger and better with new light displays, including the Kids Gingerbread House. Tickets are on sale now, ranging from $14 to $18. And that's the 411 on the 208. I'm Sophia Bliss.
Some Idaho steelheads are found in the water, others on the ice. Depending on which one you are, you have a very different weekend ahead. So which kind of a steely fan are you, the meal or the team? Well, text us about that or really anything. Questions, comments, suggestions, hockey memories, whatever it is. Our number, 208-321-5614. Please be sure to include your name and hashtag the 208. We'll get to some of these at the end of the show. Want to know something so Idaho? Today, the Idaho Department of Fish and Game released hundreds of steelhead fish into the Boise River. Steelhead were dropped off at the Glenwood Bridge, the Americana Bridge, Barber Park, the West Park Center Bridge, and below the Broadway Avenue Bridge behind Boise State. We love the steelhead. There they are, ready to get transferred. But remember, only 2 fish per day, an angler per day, 6 in possession, and 20 for the fall season. Do not break those rules. Oh, and don't forget, you need a fishing license and permit to do this in Idaho. Anyways, though, speaking of steelhead, a very different kind of steelhead. They're also being released today onto the ice. The Idaho Steelheads take on the Allen Americans. You know, and they throw a steelhead on the ice and it floats away as they score the first goal. Anyways, we wanted to know if there is an intersection between the Idaho Steelheads and the fish the steelhead. So we asked a steelhead about a steelhead. I sat down with Steely's goaltender, Dylan Wells. He's going to be the starter tonight at 7:10. Comes into the game with a 5-0 record. I asked him the hard-hitting question. One question we've been asking the Steelheads players is, do you go fishing for steelhead ever?
I don't. I'm not a huge fisherman, but I've spent my off days golfing with a good chunk of the guys, so maybe I'll have to go fishing for steelhead one day.
Because I know there's, at least last year, there was guys in the locker room that their off days are going down the Boise River.
Yeah, I know a lot of guys have been talking about it, that they have gone, so I've talked about maybe jumping in with them one time, but it's not really one of my main hobbies right now, but I might have to get in on that.
So Dylan Wells is more of a golfer and a heck of a goaltender too. We'll see that tonight. So anyways, after you're done golfing, maybe that's when you go ahead to get some steelhead on the river. And I'll tell you, some of the steelheads in the locker room, they talk about the best spots. Anyways, you can catch the Idaho Steelheads in action tonight at 7 o'clock, Idaho's very own 24/7 and on 7.2. It is almost closing time on the 208, so last call for all your comments and questions and thoughts for the week. You can send them our way right now, 208-321-5614. Please be sure to include your name and hashtag the 208. We'll get to some of your comments, questions, thoughts live in a few minutes at the end of the show.
Hey, welcome along. We'll get to your forecast for the weekend here in just one moment. Something kind of interesting that's happening in Barrow, Alaska, in the way of the weather. And this is from their sea ice webcam. You can see why they call it the sea ice webcam. They have plenty of ice up there in Barrow. It's very cold. It's on the northern tip of Alaska. It's almost near the North Pole. And because of that, the sunset in Barrow, Alaska tomorrow night, November 18th, means no sun until sunrise January 23rd. 67 days. 67 days without any sun. They're so far north that they're not going to get much sun at all. Okay, so it's just interesting to see that. And then when you compare that, of course, we have nothing like that in the winters here in Boise. But on December 1st, our sunset's 5:09. January 1st, the sunset's 5:18. So we gain a little bit of time, actually. The best part is we're at the lowest parts, even coming into the next couple of weeks. But then as we get more toward the end of the month of December, we start getting more time. Here's the end of January to the first part of February, where we get nearly 5:55 is the sunset. So at all times, even at the latest or earliest sunset that we could have in Boise during the winter, we usually have anywhere between 8 to 9 hours of daylight. Okay, so that's the big difference that we have. So as you take a look at our 7-day forecast, there is a storm that's going to be moving in Saturday night into Sunday. And with that storm, there could be 1/4 of an inch of rain. This is a pretty big, it's a gully washer type rainstorm that's coming in late Saturday night. Likely most of it gone by the time you get up on Sunday, could linger till noon. Gusty winds around the area too. In fact, Sunday into Monday, some of the winds could be as much as 35 miles an hour, especially through Sunday. The winds pick up on Sunday in the morning about 5, 6 o'clock, and it blows all day. Ugh, I know, I wish I had something better to tell you about the weekend. Still some blowing winds as you get into Monday, okay? Now note, there could be 2 to 4 inches of snow with this storm up in the mountains. It's dry for Tuesday, Wednesday. Now toward the end of next week, our temperatures continue to get colder. Hey, we're heading for the month of December, okay? Be careful if you're traveling.
And I would say, you know, plastics is definitely the most complicated part of recycling. And we always do say, when in doubt, throw it out. We'd rather you throw it out than wish cycle, which is wishing it could be recycled, put it in the recycling.
Yeah. This Coke bottle right here, that big green one there.
Yeah.
Are these the same? Are these different? How do we know, and where do they go?
They're a number 1 plastic. We can recycle number 1 and 2 plastics that are in the shape of a bottle or a jar.
Is there like symbols you're looking for? Because we're not all experts like you. I see plastics, they all look the same.
Most plastic bottles and jars will have a symbol on the bottom. It's just a triangle with chasing arrows, and then it has a number in the middle of it. There are some nuances to that. One of them being this, even though it's a number 1 plastic. You can kind of hear how crinkly that is, whereas like something like that, right, doesn't make any noise. With pizza box, what you want to do is you want to open it up here and look. Now you can see this one has some grease stains and some cheese there. If it looks like this side, you can recycle the whole pizza box. When it looks like this, what you want to do is throw this section away and recycle this because it's perfectly clean.
Confused yet?
Well, some of you were after we ran that story on Wednesday, which was also America Recycles Day. Hope you enjoyed the day. So we thought, though, we would clear up a few viewer questions, and we will address some of these comments. First comment was, are the caps on soda bottles recyclable? So another not so simple answer. If you leave the cap on the bottle, then yes, you can recycle it. If you take the cap off, throw the cap away and recycle the bottle. That is because, Peter says, plastic smaller than 2 inches, it's difficult to recycle because they can't be sorted correctly. All right, Chuck in Nampa said, please, 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 there's a huge difference between cardboard and corrugated cards and made of cardboard, boxes and constructed of corrugated, there it is. This one made us curious, so we reached back out to Peter at the city, and he said that cardboard is the general term for corrugated cardboard, which is the sturdy double-layer cardboard used for pizza boxes and moving boxes, and yes, you can recycle those types of cardboard. He did go on to explain, though, that paperboard is a single layer and used for things like a cereal box or a pasta box, which can also be recycled. But if it's a paperboard used for liquids or frozen items like an orange juice or milk carton, coffee cup, or frozen dinner box, then throw it out. You can't recycle it because it has a thin layer of plastic on the inside. And finally, MB from Eagle says, I love you for saying that recycling doesn't make sense or explanation any more easier. Yeah, it is hard, but as always, you can reach out to the city to help answer any questions you have. And then all you do is remember a few things. Aluminum and steel cans are the best things to recycle. Use little to no single-use plastic because it can't be recycled. And do not flush prescription drugs down the toilet or drain because then it gets into the water supply, the rivers and the lakes. We don't want that. So take those to drop-off sites that are listed on the City of Boise's website.
Give us.
Do you want me to get real close to the mic?
Your good.
Tall.
Yeah, you are tall.
Thanks.
News.
I saw your sign.
That says,
Give us your good news.
you have good news.
I have good news.
I love good news.
Yeah.
No, I'm just a man of God and loving life, man. I'm feeling great about everything, you know? Just loving life. So that's my good news for the day.
She is my greatest joy, truly. I'll take her anytime I can get her. And she's so sweet and easy to take care of. So to me, it's just pure joy.
So you saw our sign.
I did.
And what made you stop?
Realizing after reading this sign that I'm where I'm at. Damn, now I might tear up. Definitely has me in surfing in the sea of gratitude, to put it frankly.
It's a good day for good news.
Thanks, Izzy.
That's your slogan.
We'll take it.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Thank you.
Hey, Remy, have a good day.
Thank you.
Yesterday, we did a Feel Good Friday on a Thursday because why not? But today is Friday, so we thought we would share a few more of your good news comments that you guys were sending in yesterday. And as we saw these come in, we love it. Kathy from Stars said, here's mine. I'm 77 and still blessed with good health, and I can still work, and I have a wonderful daughter and granddaughter. Robin Nampa, I have great news. A wonderful wife, a great little dog, a nice home, and a great job. A lot to be thankful for. Hashtag the 208, my good news. I'm a Grammy of 12 grandkids. I start early. I'm totally ready for Christmas. It ends my Christmas stress. Love my grandbabies. That's from Deborah. This person says, my daughter is graduating from college in December and has been nominated for Best Leader at Boise State. Marilyn, congratulations to you and your family. This person also wrote in, my good news, I don't have breast cancer. Marilyn, we are so happy to hear that. Thank you for sharing. And thank you, everyone, for sending us all your good news. We couldn't get to all of it, but hopefully we can in the future. And if you have any good news or anything you want to send to us, text us 208-321-5614 with your name and hashtag the 208. We're going to try to share some more of your good news at the end of the show. And if you need a reason to give some good news, this week is World Kindness Week. So bring kindness into your weekend and you can be someone else's good news. We'll wrap up after this. All right, let's get to some of your comments to finish the program here. We'll start with this one. This person says, some think the moon is made of Swiss cheese. In Dorothy Moon's case, it's true. Virtually everything she argues is full of holes. David in Boise. All right, there's an opinion on that. This person says, perhaps Dorothy Moon's lack of response is all there is. That's from Deb. I'll just tell you this. We would love to talk with Chair Moon, and we've invited her several times to talk with us on and off camera. And I did see one more question saying, when's the last time you spoke with Dorothy Moon? That would probably be a year ago when she was here at KTVB for the Secretary of State debate. Again, though, we'd love to talk with Chair Moon. There's no trick questions we have. We just want to talk about what's going on with the party and stuff. Let's talk about some sports. This person says, Steelheads are the best show in town. We're going to need a bigger arena with the constant packed crowds. AHL, the American Hockey League, give us a shot. Hashtag the 208 from Sean. Sean, I would love that. I agree with you. Steelheads are the best show in town, other than the 208. This person says, does a steelhead know it's a steelhead? That's Chris from Mountain Home. I don't know. We'll have to go interview one. We interviewed the hockey players. I guess we should interview a fish. And then this person says, I saw some steelheads on my flight from Chicago to Boise on Monday. Boy, do they migrate. Scott, you're correct. All right, folks. We'll see you on Monday.